Chapter 4. Managing Your Energies. You know that business responsibilities and activities can be very stressful, whether you're working for a demanding boss or you have the task of creating income so you can pay the people who you work for. You also know that too much stress can be very harmful. It can hurt your health, ruin your relationships, curtail your ability to concentrate and learn, lower your productivity, creativity, problem-solving ability, and undermine your self-confidence and happiness. There are many ways that you can use the alpha level, the inner conscious level, to relieve stress. As we've already seen, just relaxing at alpha for 15 minutes will bring you many benefits. It will strengthen your immune system and protect your health. During your 15 minutes at alpha, you can think about your tasks for the rest of the day and program to do them well. Alpha is the strongest part of the brain, with the most synchronous and most stable brain frequency, so you can do a better job of analyzing information and making decisions. You will be safer from accidents because your mind will automatically use ESP to detect oncoming danger and automatically guide you to the right action to avoid. You will be luckier because your ESP will automatically make you aware of opportunities that 90% of people won't know about because they haven't learned to use the subconscious consciously. You will be more persuasive because your mind will communicate directly with the people you are trying to persuade. Relaxing at alpha will help you work more efficiently so that you will be better able to balance work and family in the midst of demanding job requirements. I'm going to have a hard time convincing you of this, but here goes. Tense situations consume more time per unit of accomplishment than do relaxed situations. If you react stressfully to a deadline or time limit, your stress interferes with your mental and physical skills. You take more time than you do normally. If you take as little as 5 minutes to relax and program yourself positively, those 5 minutes are saved many times over. What you're doing, in effect, is taking the sting out of the bee, removing the pressure from the time limit. It all begins with alpha. The alpha room. Now you may be wondering, how can I spend 15 minutes or even 5 minutes at alpha while I am at work? People will think that I am sleeping on the job. Fortunately, almost every building has a special room where you can go and spend 15 minutes at alpha without anyone disturbing you or wondering what you're doing. In North America, we call it a restroom, a bathroom in a public building. That's right. Just go to the bathroom and relax. You can spend a few minutes at alpha before you leave home in the morning and plan your day. Then, another 15-minute session in the restroom after lunch to correct any mistakes from the morning and plan the rest of your day. And then 15 minutes before going to sleep at night to correct any problems you encountered during the day, reinforce your successes, and begin planning for more success tomorrow. Techniques to use in stressful situations. You have already learned several techniques that you can use when you find yourself in a stressful situation. They are: 1. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, relax. A deep breath provides energy, and exhaling is like a sign of relief when you relax after a challenging situation. 2. Do your threes. In the Silva centering exercise, you condition yourself so that the number 3 is associated with physical relaxation. So, mentally repeat and visualize the number 3 several times and allow your muscles to relax as you do this. 3. Recall your ideal place of relaxation or any tranquil and passive scenes to help you relax mentally. You can recall being with your family and enjoying being with them. And 4. You can also recall previous successes you've had and recall that feeling of success. This will help you to feel confident and to project that confidence when you speak. It will take you a few moments to do this, and those few moments often have another benefit. If the stress is due to an interaction you are having with another person, then when you pause to relax, they probably think that you are analyzing the situation and coming up with a good response. Whatever you say next, they might be more likely to listen to and consider. the Silva reprogramming technique. You can use the subjective dimension to help yourself in many ways. You can improve your energy, your attitude, your health. You can even do the same for others. Business people experience a variety of complaints that seem to be inherent in the job, a sort of vocational hazard. Frequently, these are vague complaints, not worth mentioning to the family physician, but nevertheless real enough to interfere, to some degree, with the day's work. Take that early morning feeling. It could be a lethargic feeling. It could be a bad taste in your mouth. It could be a disinclination to face the papers on your desk. It could be the lack of desire to speak to anybody. It could be any number of similar blocks to rolling up your sleeves and pitching in. It might be called the morning blahs. Shirley L. had them. She was the manager of a woman's specialty store, and she felt like crawling into an inventory cabinet each morning. Instead, she drank cup after cup of coffee. That helped, but it made her short-tempered with her salespeople the rest of the day. James S. had them. It took him an hour of sitting at his desk and waking up before he could start processing work orders in his printing company. Here is how they both got rid of the morning blahs once and for all with the Silva techniques. The first step was to recognize that they were putting up with this morning state and to decide that they were no longer willing to let it interfere with their day. The second step was to pre-program for a methodology that would work for them. The third step was to use methodologies like the 5-step method and others that we'll now describe. The methodology is a flexible tool. Your hands can do anything when you use them and with the right tools. Your mind can do anything when you use it and with the right tools. Your main tool to combat unwanted attitudes, emotions, personality quirks, listlessness, and boredom is the alpha level. Other tools at your disposal are visualization and imagination. In Chapter 2, we explain that when you learn to activate your mind and function analytically at the alpha level, you have gained the ability to use the subconscious consciously. In other words, you have created something new, something that Jose Silva called the inner conscious level. You can use this inner conscious level to correct any problem at any time. All you need to do is to go to the restroom, or to your car, or any other place where you can go to level for 5 minutes without being disturbed, and program to correct the problem. You can use this technique if you feel tired and exhausted and want to be wide awake, feeling fine, and in perfect health. If tension and stress are causing pain in your body, a headache for instance, you can use this technique. If you feel insecure or fearful, you can use it to program yourself to feel more confident. If you get angry and lose your temper, and this is interfering with your job performance or your family relationships, you can program yourself at the alpha level to correct this problem. You can also use deep levels of mind to rewrite your personal history. If you feel that you are being limited by events from the past, you can neutralize the effects of this negative past programming at deep levels of mind. The more you practice entering your level, you will reach deeper levels of mind and also lower brain frequencies. Soon, you will be able to enter the theta brainwave level of 5 cycles per second, where early childhood memories are stored. When you activate your mind and program to correct problems, your brain will adjust to the alpha level. At theta, you can only function inductively. For deductive functioning, you need 10 cycles at alpha or 20 cycles at beta. Alpha is the ideal level for doing your deductive reasoning. Once you have practiced enough so that you have opened the pathway to theta, the programming that you do at your center, at alpha, the 10 CPS center of the normal brain frequency spectrum, will be effective at correcting problems in all parts of the brain. You can enter your level, identify the problems you want to correct, and correct them using the technique that we'll share in just a moment, as well as the 3 scenes technique, which you will learn in the next chapter. Now it's time to practice the centering exercise again. Every time you enter your level, You will enter a deeper level of mind, deeper than you have ever gone before. That does not necessarily mean a lower brain frequency, but a deeper level of mind. Now, refer to CD number 10 of this program for the Silva centering exercise. A cautionary word about affirmations. We don't use affirmations. In fact, we advise people to be very cautious about using them. Affirmations are not programming. According to Webster's dictionary, an affirmation is an act of saying or showing that something is true. When people try to affirm that they are confident when they aren't, they are not saying something that is true. It's just the opposite. They are lying to themselves. And you know it when you do it. People who tell you to make those kinds of statements try to justify it by saying that the statements will go into your subconscious. But how can that be true when you are aware, that is, conscious, that you are saying it? What psychologists named the subconscious is the alpha level. Once you learn to use the alpha level with conscious awareness, it is no longer subconscious for you. You now know how to use the subconscious consciously. As Jose Silva said, that is a contradiction in terms. If you can use it consciously, then it is no longer that is, beneath, consciousness. That is why we call it the inner conscious level. He coined that term, and he told us that it's the most valuable thing that came from his research, finding a way to use the subconscious consciously. If you think you have a limited belief system or negative past programming that is holding you back, you can use the alpha level to correct it. There are plenty of courses that will give you techniques to use to work on your problems. The more attention you pay to your problems, the more you energize the problems. This is why the harder you try to change, the worse it gets. We do just the opposite. We solve problems by concentrating on solutions. Sometimes the past has given you mental blocks, which could hurt you in every way. So we say, don't think about the past, but only about the present and the future. Don't say it can't be done, but think and act on how to do it. We move in the direction of our dominant thoughts, so after you have identified the problem, from then on, whenever you think of the problem, recall the solution image you created previously. Mind guides brain, and brain guides body. So when you work on the problem, you are reinforcing the problem. Anytime you think of the problem, immediately dismiss that thought. Just cancel it out of your subconscious and replace it with thoughts of the solution. How mental programming works. A program is a process. If you write and tell me that there is a misspelled word on my website, I can't just affirm that everything is spelled correctly on my website. First, I need to know that word is misspelled. Hopefully, you will tell me how it is spelled on the site. Then I can find it quickly and correct it. The 3 scenes technique, which you will learn in the next chapter, is an excellent way to correct problems. You can use it to change habits and to achieve success in correcting all kinds of problems. Be sure to keep the laws of programming in mind. Selfishness may bring short-term gains, but for long-term prosperity, program to do what is best for everyone concerned. If you need money to meet your obligations, instead of thinking about the money you are going to make, start off by thinking of what you can do to serve the customer better than other people do. For guidance, review this statement from the Silva centering exercise. You will continue to take part in constructive and creative activities to make this a better world to live in, so that when we move on, we shall have left behind a better world for those who follow. You will consider the whole of humanity, depending on their ages, as fathers or mothers, brothers or sisters, sons or daughters. You are a superior human being. You have greater understanding, compassion, and patience with others. Think about that at your level, and you will understand why it is so powerful. If you are repairing an air conditioner for your parents, your siblings, your children, how would you proceed? Do the same for everybody you deal with, and you will soon have all the business you desire. But a word of caution: don't do it just to make more money. Do it because it is the right thing to do. As Jose Silva emphasized, do unto others only what you want others to do unto you. If you don't want it done unto you, then don't do it unto others. Be the kind of person that you would like to do business with. Then other people will want to do business with you. Better business on a spiritual foundation. We want to do business with people who will help us to solve our problems and succeed in our projects. We want to do business with people who are honest and truthful with us. Intuition can help you do all of those things. You can use your ESP to detect what other people are thinking and how they are feeling. You can learn what their real wants and needs are. You can detect what they are concerned about and what they fear. When you do this, you can offer them more value because you can create a solution that is exactly what they want and need. In addition to using your natural, God-given intuition to detect information about other people, information that you can use to help you develop a perfect solution for their problems, you can also put ideas into their mind. You can let them know that you are honest and sincere and that they can trust you and depend on you. But a word of caution: you'd better be telling the truth, because they will know if you aren't. If there is something inside of you that wants to take advantage of them, they will sense it. When you go to them with a proposal that is exactly what they have been hoping for, and they feel that you are honest and will do what you promise, and that you understand them and their situation better than the other people who are submitting proposals to them, then they will do business with you. If you have an old belief system that you don't deserve to succeed, or that you are not smart enough or good enough, then prove to yourself that you do deserve to succeed, and that you are good enough by making the best proposals and providing more value than anybody else. The alpha brainwave level is the ideal level to do your thinking. Once you learn how to remain at the alpha level to do your thinking, then you can analyze the entire situation. If you detect that you are doing something that hinders the process and might keep the client from enjoying the benefits and value that you can provide, then you can easily change whatever that is. If you have some kind of mental block, there is a reason you have it. Even if you identify it, whatever caused you to develop it in the first place might make it very difficult for you to fix. If you sincerely want to provide great value to the other party and be fairly compensated for your efforts, then your mind will find a way to help make it happen. There is no need to go digging up old problems. Just concentrate on solutions. Jose Silva's research indicates that we are sent to planet Earth to solve problems and improve living conditions. He said to provide something of value, either goods or services, and keep in mind what your needs are, plus a little bit more. He used to tell us that if you need $1,000,000, it's easy to get it. Just give $10,000,000 in service to humanity. When you are taking part in constructive and creative activities to make this a better world to live in, and keep in mind what your needs are, then you will succeed. Jose Silva's Ultramind ESP system is the only scientifically researched and proven system that we know of that helps you learn to use your natural, God-given intuition to do exactly that. Learning to use your intuition, also known as ESP, psychic ability, clairvoyance, etc., is a new skill. As with any other new skill, you need to practice it a few minutes every day to develop your expertise. 5 steps to success. There are 5 steps to correcting problems. These are applied at the alpha level. So, first enter the alpha level, then use these 5 steps. 1. In order to correct a problem, you must first identify the problem. You can tell yourself mentally, I am tired and exhausted. I feel tired and exhausted. Or, I have a headache. 2. Mentally state the solution. Say, I want to be wide awake, feeling fine and in perfect health. Or, I want to be pain-free. 3. Make a plan. Tell yourself, In a moment, I am going to count from 1 to 5, and at the count of 5, I will open my eyes, be wide awake, feeling fine, and in perfect health. If you are doing this to relieve a headache or other pain, say mentally, I will have no headache, I will feel no headache, and this is so. 4. Work your plan. Count slowly from 1 to 5. At the count of 3, remind yourself of the solution. Say to yourself, at the count of 5, I will open my eyes and be wide awake, feeling fine and in perfect health. Add that you will feel energized, will feel no pain, will feel confident, or will have no anger, etc. And finally, 5. When you reach the count of 5 and open your eyes, assume that you have succeeded, that the technique has worked. Even if you don't feel that it has worked yet, act as if it has already worked. This is what is called an assumptive close in sales. Assume success. Act as if it were already a done deal. If you check to see if you are still tired or if you still have the headache, you'll find it. So act as if it were gone, and it will be gone. Sometimes serious problems require more than one application. For severe pain, such as a migraine headache, use 3 applications, 5 minutes apart. Each application will correct more of the problem until the problem is completely gone. Always remember to take it for granted that the correction has taken place. Act as if you have already achieved what you programmed for, even if it does not seem to have taken place yet. When you do this, your mind will know that you are serious and will respond appropriately. Other people resonate with you. If you feel tired and listless and have no energy, you are affecting others that work with you. It makes no difference if you are hiding in your office. The energy that your body radiates penetrates walls and crosses distances. If you are enthusiastic and vibrant, you are also affecting others you work with. Yes, they are affected by hearing you and seeing you, but even without the benefit of these senses, their own spirits are lifted by yours. So it is important to you as a business person to be able to use the alpha level to correct your own deficiencies in attitude, energy, or health. Not for just personal reasons, but for the benefit of everyone you come into contact with. The more that others respect your position, and the more rapport you have with them, the more they respond positively to you. You have more of a responsibility to keep yourself in top physical and mental shape than does a less influential person. The alpha level is your control. At 10 cycles per second, your brain waves are at a normalizing harmony. Mental rehearsal. You know the saying, practice makes perfect. Practicing mentally at the alpha brainwave level is almost as beneficial as practicing physically. To take advantage of this, enter the alpha level and project yourself mentally to the place where you will be carrying out the action. Study your surroundings. Become familiar with them. Preparation leads to success. Often the one who is best prepared is the one who wins. If you want to improve your golf game, you need to practice swinging golf clubs and hitting balls. It doesn't matter where you are. The great golfer Lee Trevino said, if the weather is bad and you can't go outside, then get up out of your comfortable reclining chair, pick up a wedge, and practice chipping wiffle balls into the recliner. Practicing a presentation mentally will strengthen your mental memory in the same way that hitting golf balls will reinforce your muscle memory. If you want to be mentally strong, to develop your mental powers, then practice mentally at the alpha level. You can use this technique to help you perform better, make a better presentation, be more persuasive, be a better speaker, a better listener, or whatever you need that will help you to serve your customers better. Practicing at level. Once you have entered your level and projected yourself mentally to the place where you will do your job, imagine yourself performing the way you desire. Notice how you feel each step of the way, and imagine your ability improving all the time. Imagine your mental faculties becoming so keen that you can automatically anticipate any situation, any question, any task that needs to be performed. You can rehearse the complete event with your imagination in this manner. At the end, imagine yourself being congratulated for your performance. Mental rehearsal is excellent to use either before or after an activity or event. After the event, you can enter your level and correct any problems you had so that you will perform better next time. Identify the problem, then do it again with your imagination, but this time, do it better than before. Let your final thoughts be of success and accomplishments. Whenever you have a success, enter your level as soon as possible. Review your performance and recall how you felt when you were successful. Then, when you are ready to mentally rehearse a new activity, go to your center. Recall your success and the special feeling that you had when you had the success. This will help you to be just as successful again and even more successful in the future. The formula for mental rehearsal. Here is the complete formula. When you have an activity to perform and you desire to rehearse it mentally ahead of time, go to your center with the 3 to 1 method, the standard way of entering the alpha level that you learned in Chapter 2, and project yourself mentally to the location where you will perform the activity. Once you have projected yourself mentally to the place where you will perform the activity, imagine yourself performing the way you desire. Imagine yourself improving and accomplishing your task successfully. Notice how you feel as you are performing the task. Imagine how you feel as you begin the activity the way you desire. Imagine how you feel as you progress in the activity. Imagine feeling successful, and imagine a sense of accomplishment as you succeed at your assigned task. When you're done, count yourself out of level. Projection into the kingdom of inanimate matter. Now we'll continue with your ESP training by learning effective sensory projection into the kingdom of inanimate matter. You will study metals from a subjective point of view. Start by getting 4 different metal objects. We recommend stainless steel, copper, brass, and aluminum. Then we want you to handle the metals and become familiar with them physically, because this makes it easier for you to project yourself into them mentally, the way you projected yourself into your living room's south wall in the previous chapter. First, you use your physical senses to study each object. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Can you detect an odor? After you study each metal, bring it to your forehead and touch your forehead with it. When you do, close your eyes and make an impression. This is the procedure we'll use when you project yourself mentally into each of the metals. After you enter your level, you will review those objective impressions at the subjective alpha level. This will make it easier for you to then project your subjective senses, that is, your mind, to detect subjective information and relate it to the objective impressions you made with your physical senses. Conduct the 4 tests. Remember that you are projecting, which means that you make it happen. Jose Silva said that, whatever you imagine, that is what counts here. That's the key. We don't wait to perceive something. We take action and use imagination to imagine what we would experience. Why inanimate matter first? Because that is the simplest structure. Just atoms and molecules. Whenever you learn something new, you start with the basics and then add complexity. For instance, in business, you need to know basic math, how to add, subtract, multiply, divide. Then you know that when a customer orders 3 widgets for $2 each, you multiply. 3 times 2 equals $6. When you learn that the $6 is considered income, and the $1 each that the widgets cost you is considered expense, then you will be able to understand a profit and loss statement. Once you learn about assets and liabilities and equity, you can learn to read a balance sheet and other financial documents that are important to a business. But if somebody tries to explain a balance sheet to you before you understand the basics, it won't make any sense to you. So, we're going to start with the simplest structures in physics: inanimate objects. Inanimate objects are composed of atoms and molecules. The ancient Greeks said that the atom was the basic building block of matter. You can combine atoms in a certain way to make something more complex, to make molecules. After we project mentally into the inanimate kingdom and gain some experiences detecting metals, then we will move up to the plant life kingdom. This is a giant leap forward. It combines atoms and molecules into something entirely different: cells. That's life. Cells can reproduce. The next step: combine cells together in a certain way, and you have organs: a heart, a brain, a kidney. We will study the anatomy of a pet. The final step is the highest life form on the planet, the human being. So we will study human anatomy from a psychic point of view. A human being is made up of organ systems. These are made up of organs, which in turn are made up of cells, which are made up of molecules, which are made up of atoms, which are made up of subatomic particles, which are derived from pure spiritual energy. These are what we call the building blocks of matter. Later, when you begin practicing and developing proficiency with your psychic ability, it will be easiest to start by detecting serious problems in human beings. While the human body is quite complex, a human being has more intelligence than an animal or a plant or an inanimate object, and that makes it easier to detect problems. Projecting to the inanimate matter kingdom requires the most from us. We must project all the way, because inanimate matter does not have any intelligence to come part of the way towards us. Plant life has some intelligence and can meet us part way. Animal life has still more intelligence and can come further towards us. The human kingdom has the most intelligence and can meet us halfway. That is why it is easiest to practice first at detecting serious human health problems. During the conditioning cycle, you will enter the alpha brainwave level and review your objective impressions. Then, you will use mental projection to establish subjective points of reference by projecting your mind inside the metals. Remember to use your hands. This will produce a more vivid experience for you. Remember that we do not wait passively to perceive something. We project in order to achieve the most effective experience. Practical applications. Our main purpose right now is to familiarize yourself with all aspects of the subjective dimension so that you will be a better psychic. But there are some practical applications for this intimate knowledge of the kingdom of inanimate matter. Suppose that your job involves maintenance of equipment or machinery. When something breaks down, you can project your mind into it and mentally determine the location of the problem. If you need to determine whether the problem is with a steel shaft, for instance, or with a copper bushing around that shaft, you can use your points of reference to find out. At your level, project your mind to the problem area and recall your previous experiences. Ask yourself, is the amount and quality of the light more like steel or more like copper? Use the alternate choice technique. Recall your previous experience of light within steel, then within copper. Go back and forth a few times and determine which is most likely. Then, in order to confirm what you find, do the same with your previous experiences with temperature, odor, and solidity of material. Recall one, then the other, back and forth, until you feel confident that you know which one it is. Sam Gonzalez Silva, who now lives in Las Vegas, Nevada, is Jose Silva's nephew. When Sam was growing up, he lived next door to Jose, and he learned at an early age how to use his ESP, his intuition, just as naturally as his other senses. It proved very useful to him later when he was in the Air Force. Sam's job was to maintain and repair complex electronic equipment. One afternoon when he went into work, the man he relieved was tired and frustrated because he had spent the entire shift trying to troubleshoot and debug a piece of equipment. Sam took over the task, relaxed, and projected his mind into the piece of equipment in order to mentally detect anything that wasn't the way it should be. It was as if he were daydreaming. He could imagine any part of the equipment. He didn't need to see it with his eyes because he could visualize it with his mind. It only took Sam a few minutes to locate a circuit that didn't match what he expected to find. There was something abnormal about it. So he focused his eyes on the equipment, opened it up, went to the problem area, and fixed it. In just a few minutes, he was able to find and correct a problem that a person who didn't know how to use his ESP had failed to do in an entire 8-hour shift. Imagine how valuable a skill like that can be to your business. Imagine how valuable it can be when you are developing something new and need to get all the bugs out and make it work as efficiently as possible. After Sam got out of the Air Force, he began teaching the Silva Mind Control course, establishing points of reference with people you meet. Jose Silva's brother, Juan, used to advise that we establish objective points of reference about new people when we meet them. Notice what they look like, what their voice sounds like, how their hand feels when you shake hands with them. Later, when you want to program to help that person or to work on your relationship with them, you can enter your level and recall the previous impressions that you made, the points of reference. This will help you to recall more about them. If they give you something, like a business card or a brochure, for instance, you can also use this to help you attune to them later. We'll explain exactly how to do that in Chapter 7 when we cover psychometry, where to find metals to practice with. You can easily find objects around the house that you can use, and also at your local hardware store. You probably have many stainless steel items around the house. Many people use stainless flatware, knives and forks and spoons, as well as pots and pans, scissors and tools. Copper is easy too. Maybe you have an old copper pot or tea kettle or a candlestick, wire, or plumbing fixtures made of copper. Musical instruments, bells, and some medallions, keys, and belt buckles are made of brass, as are certain decorative items and plaques. Aluminum is very common and easy to find. Kitchen items, thermos bottles, aluminum cans, and window frames. Your local hardware store will have everything you need: copper pipe and copper tubing, as well as copper and brass fittings and couplings that are used in plumbing work. They also have both stainless steel and brass screws and bolts. You can often buy these for less than $1. You can also visit a gift shop and see if there are any brass or copper items you'd like to have for your house. If you want a brass bell at your front door, that will also provide you with a metal to use. You can use other metals too, instead of or in addition to these. Many people like to use precious metals, gold and silver, for instance. The more points of reference you establish, the better. Handle each object. Turn it around and look at it from all sides. Smell it. Bring it to your forehead and let it touch your forehead. Close your eyes and make an impression. Then, during the condition cycle, you will repeat those movements before projecting yourself mentally into the metal. Projection into metals. Remember to handle each metal while at beta. Notice what it looks like, what it feels like, how heavy it is, how solid it feels, any odor it might have. You don't need to hold the metal during the conditioning cycle, but please do use your hands as if you were handling it. When you use your hands and imagine touching the object physically, it will help you detect information about it mentally in the subjective or non-physical dimension. Now, here is Ed again to guide you through this mental projection exercise. We will use the theta sound in the background for this exercise.
This is the projection into metals exercise of Jose Silva's Ultramind ESP system. Originally, Mr. Silva did this with stainless steel, copper, brass, and lead, but it's become increasingly more difficult to find lead because of the dangers that it poses. So if you wish, you can substitute aluminum for lead. Handle each metal beforehand before we start. Hold it, feel it, look at it, see what it looks like, notice what it feels like. Smell it. Does it have an odor? And bring it up to your forehead and touch your forehead with it. Then we will repeat those motions in this exercise as you imagine projecting yourself into each metal one at a time. So when you're ready, find a comfortable position and continue with the projection into metals exercise. We will start this exercise with the 3-to-1 method. Take a deep breath, and while exhaling, mentally repeat and visualize the number 3 times. To help you learn to relax physically at level 3, I'm going to direct your attention to different parts of your body. Relax your scalp. Relax your forehead. Relax your eyes. Relax your face. Relax your throat. Relax your shoulders. Relax your chest, externally and internally. Relax your abdominal area, externally and internally. Relax your thighs. Relax your knees. Relax your calves. Relax your feet. You are now at a deeper, healthier level of mind, deeper than before. This is your physical relaxation level 3. Whenever you mentally repeat and visualize the number 3, your body will relax as completely as you are now, and more so every time you practice. To enter mental relaxation level 2, take a deep breath, and while exhaling, mentally repeat and visualize the number 2 3 times, and you are at level 2. Level 2 is for mental relaxation, where noises will not distract you. In fact, noises will help you to relax more and more. To enhance mental relaxation at level 2, practice visualizing tranquil and passive scenes. To go to your center, take a deep breath, and while exhaling, mentally repeat and visualize the number 1 3 times. You are now at level 1, a deeper, healthier level of mind where you can function from your center. To help you enter a deeper, healthier level of mind, I'm going to count from 10 to 1. On each descending number, you will feel yourself going deeper, and you will enter a deeper, healthier level of mind. 10, 9, feel going deeper. 8, 7, 6, deeper and deeper. 5, 4, 3, deeper and deeper. 2, 1. You are now at a deeper, healthier level of mind, deeper than before. It is a wonderful feeling to be deeply relaxed, a very healthy state of being. The following laws are to be considered when programming. Do to others only what you like others to do to you. The solution must help to make the planet a better place to live. The solution must be the best for everybody concerned. The solution must help at least 2 or more persons. The solution must be within the possibility area. The following principles apply to programming. Objective physical communication takes place at the beta left brain dimension, using the objective physical senses. The hearing is used for perception, and the voice is used for transmission. Subjective spiritual communication takes place at the alpha right brain dimension by using the spiritual senses. Visualization is used for perception, and imagination is used for transmission. In the objective physical dimension, the past is behind us, the present is our present position, and the future is ahead of us. In the subjective spiritual dimension, the past is to your right, the present is centered, straight ahead, and the future is to your left. We will now program effective sensory projection for your success, and program information with the use of mental projection for your benefit. We will establish subjective points of reference at the inanimate matter kingdom at different levels and different depths for stainless steel, copper, brass, and lead. In a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 3 and cause a sound with my fingers. At that time, you will project yourself mentally to the living room in your home and imagine yourself standing in the center facing the south wall. 1, 2, 3. You are now standing in the center of your living room facing the south wall. At the count of 3, you will extend your arm objectively and visualize the piece of stainless steel. 1, 2, 3. Extend your arm objectively and visualize a piece of stainless steel. Mentally sense the piece of stainless steel and relive and objectively repeat all the movements made previously. Bring it closer and closer to your forehead. Mentally observe the steel a few inches away. Now allow it to touch your forehead and mentally project yourself into the stainless steel. You are now within the piece of stainless steel. You may return your hand to rest on your lap. If you imagine the piece of stainless steel to be just big enough for you to fit in it, then you will not go very deeply inside. But if you imagine a piece of stainless steel as big as this room, then you can go further within. If you will imagine this piece of steel to be as large as a massive building and feel your size in contrast with it, then you can go still further within, using the depth that this dimension of mind offers. Whenever you need to increase the illumination or amount or size of anything, just snap the fingers of your right hand slightly and expect a change to take place. For a decrease, or to return anything back to its original state, snap the fingers of your left hand slightly and expect a change to take place. Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as points of reference in the future. At this time, we are going to subjectively conduct 4 tests. The first test will be for light, intensity, and color. 1, 2, 3. Sense the intensity and color of light within the stainless steel. Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as a point of reference in the future. At the count of 3, we will test for temperature. 1, 2, 3. Sense the temperature within the stainless steel. Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as a point of reference in the future. At the count of 3, we will test for odor. 1, 2, 3. Sense the odor within the stainless steel. Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as a point of reference in the future. At the count of 3, we will test for solidity of material by knocking on the stainless steel. 1, 2, 3. Objectively form a fist and go through the motions of knocking on the stainless steel as you do on a wall. What kind of sound do you subjectively hear? Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as a point of reference in the future. At the count of 3, you will objectively touch your forehead. 1, 2, 3. Touch your forehead. You are now coming out of the stainless steel. Objectively extend your arm and allow the imaginary piece of steel to float in space by itself at a level a little higher than the horizontal plane or level of sight. You may return your hand to rest on your lap. How does a piece of stainless steel stand out against the natural color of the wall? Keep the piece of stainless steel rotating in your imagination. Keep it moving, keep it dynamic. At the count of 3, the color of the wall will change to red. 1, 2, 3. The wall is now red. Keep the piece of steel rotating, noticing how it stands out against the red background. At the count of 3, the color of the wall will change to green. 1, 2, 3. The wall is now green. Notice how the piece of rotating steel stands out against the green background. At the count of 3, the color of the wall will change to blue. 1, 2, 3. The wall is now blue. Notice how the piece of rotating steel stands out against the blue background. The color of the wall will now change back to green, back to red, back to the actual color of the wall. Now the piece of stainless steel will disappear from the scene. The piece of stainless steel has disappeared from the scene. At the count of 3, we will play back the impressions made with copper. 1, 2, 3. Extend your arm objectively and mentally play back the previous impressions made with copper. Repeat every movement. Bring your hand closer and closer. Now touch your forehead and mentally project yourself into the piece of copper. In your imagination, you are now within the piece of copper, any depth of this level you desire. You may return your hand to rest on your lap. Remember to use your finger snapping controls to increase and decrease as necessary. At the count of 3, we will conduct the first test. 1, 2, 3. Sense the intensity and color of light within copper. How does the light within copper compare with that of stainless steel? Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as points of reference in the future. At the count of 3, test for temperature. 1, 2, 3. Sense the temperature within copper. How does the temperature of copper compare with that of stainless steel? Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as a point of reference in the future. At the count of 3, test for odor. 1, 2, 3. Sense the odor within copper. How does the odor of copper compare with that of stainless steel? Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as a point of reference in the future. At the count of 3, test for solidity of material. 1, 2, 3. Objectively form a fist and knock on copper. How does the imagined sound of copper compare with that of stainless steel? Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as a point of reference in the future. At the count of 3, touch your forehead to come out of the piece of copper. 1, 2, 3. Touch your forehead. You are now coming out of the copper. Extend your arm and hold the piece of copper at arm's length. Now allow the piece of copper to float in space, using as a background the natural color of your living room south wall. Keep the piece of copper rotating. You may return your hand to rest on your lap. At the count of 3, the color of the wall will change to red. 1, 2, 3. The wall is now red. How does this piece of copper stand out against a red background? How does this compare with the piece of stainless steel? Keep the piece of copper rotating. At the count of 3, the color of the wall will change to green. 1, 2, 3. The wall is now green. How does this piece of copper stand out against a green background? How does this compare with the stainless steel? Keep the piece of copper rotating. At the count of 3, the color of the wall will change to blue. 1, 2, 3. The wall is now blue. How does this piece of copper stand out against a blue background? How does this compare with the stainless steel? Keep the piece of copper rotating. The color of the wall will now change back to green, back to red, back to the actual color of the wall. Now the piece of copper will disappear from the scene. The piece of copper has disappeared from the scene. At the count of 3, we will visualize the piece of brass. 1, 2, 3. Extend your arm objectively and visualize the piece of brass, reliving all your previous movements as you bring your hand closer and closer. Now touch your forehead and mentally project yourself into the brass. You are now within the brass at any depth or level you desire. You may return your hand to rest on your lap. At the count of 3, we will conduct the first test. 1, 2, 3. Sense the intensity and color of light within brass. How does the light within brass compare with that of copper and stainless steel? Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as a point of reference in the future. At the count of 3, test for temperature. 1, 2, 3. Sense the temperature within brass. How does the temperature of brass compare with that of copper and stainless steel? Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as a point of reference in the future. At the count of 3, test for odor. 1, 2, 3. Sense the odor within brass. How does the odor of brass compare with that of copper and stainless steel? Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as a point of reference in the future. At the count of 3, test for solidity of material. 1, 2, 3. Objectively form a fist and knock on brass. How does the reflected sound of brass compare with that of copper and stainless steel? Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as a point of reference in the future. At the count of 3, touch your forehead to come out of the piece of brass. 1, 2, 3. Touch your forehead. You are now coming out of the brass. Extend your arm and hold the piece of brass at arm's length. Now allow the piece of brass to float in space, using as a background the natural color of your living room south wall. Keep the piece of brass rotating. You may return your hand to rest on your lap. At the count of 3, the color of the wall will change to red. 1, 2, 3. The wall is now red. How does this piece of brass stand out against a red background? How does this compare with the piece of copper and stainless steel? Keep the piece of brass rotating. At the count of 3, the color of the wall will change to green. 1, 2, 3. The wall is now green. How does this piece of brass stand out against a green background? How does this compare with the copper and stainless steel? Keep the piece of brass rotating. At the count of 3, the color of the wall will change to blue. 1, 2, 3. The wall is now blue. How does this piece of brass stand out against a blue background? How does this compare with the copper and stainless steel? Keep the piece of brass rotating. The color of the wall will now change back to green, back to red, back to the actual color of the wall. Now the piece of brass will disappear from the scene. The piece of brass has disappeared from the scene. At the count of 3, we will visualize a piece of lead. 1, 2, 3. Extend your arm objectively and visualize the piece of lead, reliving all your previous movements, bringing your hand closer and closer. Now touch your forehead and mentally project yourself into the piece of lead. You are now within the piece of lead at any depth or level you desire. You may return your hand to rest on your lap. At the count of 3, we will conduct the first test. 1, 2, 3. Sense the intensity and color of light within lead. How does the light within lead compare with that of brass, copper, and stainless steel? Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as a point of reference in the future. At the count of 3, test for temperature. 1, 2, 3. Sense the temperature within lead. How does the temperature of lead compare with that of brass, copper, and stainless steel? Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as a point of reference in the future. At the count of 3, test for odor. 1, 2, 3. Sense the odor within lead. How does the odor of lead compare with that of brass, copper, and stainless steel? Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as a point of reference in the future. At the count of 3, test for solidity of material. 1, 2, 3. Objectively form a fist and knock on lead. How does the reflected sound of lead compare with that of brass, copper, and stainless steel? Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as a point of reference in the future. At the count of 3, touch your forehead to come out of the piece of lead. 1, 2, 3. Touch your forehead. You are now coming out of the lead. Extend your arm and hold the piece of lead at arm's length. Now allow the piece of lead to float in space, using as a background the natural color of your living room south wall. Keep the piece of lead rotating. You may return your hand to rest on your lap. At the count of 3, the color of the wall will change to red. 1, 2, 3. The wall is now red. How does the piece of lead stand out against a red background? How does this compare with the piece of brass, copper, and stainless steel. Keep the piece of lead rotating. At the count of 3, the color of the wall will change to green. 1, 2, 3. The wall is now green. How does this piece of lead stand out against a green background? How does this compare with the brass, copper, and stainless steel? Keep the piece of lead rotating. At the count of 3, the color of the wall will change to blue. 1, 2, 3. The wall is now blue. How does this piece of lead stand out against a blue background? How does this compare with the brass, copper, and stainless steel? Keep the piece of lead rotating. The color of the wall will now change back to green, back to red, back to the actual color of the wall. Now the piece of lead will disappear from the scene. The piece of lead has disappeared from the scene. Whatever you perceive with your imagination at this dimension, you can use as points of reference in the future. It is now an accomplished fact that subjective points of reference have been established at the inanimate matter kingdom at different levels and different depths. To function at these levels and to use these points of reference, all you need is to have a sincere desire to solve problems. Your mind will automatically seek out these points of reference where you will perceive and become aware of information you can use to solve such problems. And this is so. Programming a technique. We will now impress information for your benefit, how to use psychometry, a technique that you can use to detect information. First, select an object that has been in the possession of the person about whom you desire to detect information, and hold this object in your left hand. Then go to your center with the 3-to-1 method. Once at your center, determine what information you are seeking. For instance, is the information that you desire physical, mental, or emotional? Relax and start thinking about the person who previously had possession of this object. You may ask any kind of question you desire about this person. Then clear your mind for a moment of time and start thinking again to detect the answer. When you have a sincere desire to detect this information, because you need it to improve conditions on the planet in some manner, your mind will automatically adjust to the specific level where you will be accurate and correct. You have practiced entering deep, healthy levels of mind. In your next session, you will enter a deeper, healthier level of mind, faster and easier than this time. Every time you function at these levels of the mind and at these points of reference, you will receive beneficial effects physically and mentally. You may use these levels of the mind and these points of reference to help yourself physically and mentally. You may use these levels of the mind and these points of reference to help your loved ones physically and mentally. You may use these levels of the mind and these points of reference to help any human being who needs help physically and mentally. You will never use these levels of the mind or these points of reference to harm any human being. If this be your intention, you will not be able to function within these levels of the mind, nor will you be able to use these points of reference. You will always use these levels of the mind and these points of reference in a constructive, creative manner. All that is good, honest, pure, clean, and positive, and this is so. You will continue to strive to take part in constructive and creative activities to make this a better world to live in, so that when we move on, we shall have left behind a better world for those who follow. We'll consider the whole of humanity, depending on their ages, as fathers or mothers, brothers or sisters, sons or daughters. You are a superior human being. You have greater understanding, compassion, and patience with others. In a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. At that moment, you will open your eyes, be wide awake, feeling fine and in perfect health, feeling better than before. You will have no ill effects whatsoever in your head, no headache, no ill effects whatsoever in your hearing, no buzzing in your ears, no ill effects whatsoever in your vision and eyesight. Vision, eyesight, and hearing improve every time you function at these levels of mind. 1, 2, coming out slowly now. 3. At the count of 5, you'll open your eyes, be wide awake, feeling fine and in perfect health, feeling better than before. Feeling the way you feel when you have slept the right amount of revitalizing, refreshing, relaxing, healthy, wonderful sleep. 4, 5. Eyes open, wide awake, feeling fine and in perfect health, feeling better than before. This concludes the projection into metals exercise for Jose Silva's Ultramind ESP system. Thank you. Thank you.